This is for entertainment purposes only.
Yeshua, aka Jesus, was one of these students as well. Read the Gospel of the Holy 12. You'll find that when he disappeared from the Bible, where did he go? He went to Egypt. I've taken many people to the actual bed that he slept in, which is still there in Egypt. It's a shrine now. And he was there learning the Egyptian mysteries. And this is well known, well documented. I mean, that was an apocryphal text that was left out of the Bible. He left there and went to Tibet to learn Reiki healing and Qigong and energy healing with his hands, and came down through India, learned the mystic arts. And then the Bible picks up at the age of 32, I called my son out of Egypt. That's what the
Thanks for tuning into another episode of Quick Reaction TV, the coolest vibe on YouTube. If you're new to the Quick Fam, please like, subscribe, and rock the bell for new releases. It's free and helps the channel grow. I've got a creepy selection for you today. Let's get to it.
Never know
Quick.
what's going to happen. This baby fell out of the sky and landed in our yard. It's never boring on the Welke farm. Thank God there's no horses out or it didn't hit the house. And it's still going and flashing.
This is what the telecommunications spacecraft look like now. They found it in the water. Very nice. Okay. Roscoe, where did they pick this up? On the south side? On the west side, right? I'll talk to him in a little bit. Alright. Well, that guy will be happy.
Get on top water. Fucking satellite, dude.
Forget it, Bart. It's so bright out you can't see anything in the sky except the Fox satellite. No, Lisa.
Plans came crashing to the ground. The failed launch of a balloon carrying a multi-million-dollar space telescope had onlookers scrambling for safety.
What's making them go around? They don't make sense. Then you find out NASA owns 98% of the helium. Then you find out all these satellites that crash have balloons attached to them. Then you can deduce they actually float these satellites up with balloons. It's that simple. If all these satellites are moving 17,500 miles an hour, some are moving this way, some are moving that way, it's common sense. There's 50,000 of them. They're supposed to hit each other eventually, but none of them hit each other. Come on, guys. Wake up.
And majority of all the transmissions we use for our cell phones or quote-unquote satellite TV are all ground towers. They all send transmissions from the ground tower to tower, admittedly at high elevations. And of course we have underground and undersea cables that make up 99.9% of all transmission. So
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
What do you think about the satellites and balloons? Let me know in the comments below.
What happens when I die?
You wake up into spirit again, remember? You've never left. You just wake up from this dream. Kind of in the same way, I would imagine that if you have a dream at night when you're sleeping, and it seems so real, and then you wake up and you go, as real as that was, this is who I am. So when you die, as real as this seemed, oh yeah, this is who I am. I've just had this amazing dream, and I'm going to learn from it. But this is me. And every level is probably like that. Oh yeah, this is who I am. So I think it's a series of aha wake-ups into going into spirit and dying. And certain things seem to happen similarly for a lot of people in terms of you kind of like, okay, I'm looking back at this life I had. Again, you're kind of reviewing the dream. You learn from it. You might meet other beings that have gone on before you that are happy to greet you, crossing over again or waking up. It's kind of like, hi, you've been asleep. Hi, welcome back. Good morning. And you have different possibilities. Time and space are way more flexible there. You can manifest things probably pretty quickly, almost instantaneously, and make them seem very physical and very real, even though they may not be. That seems to be typical patterns people report from things like near-death experiences. But it's, I think, kind of like waking up, because this is a dream.
So all our loved ones are soul groups, shall we say?
You can have soul families, yeah, absolutely. Friends, families, why not? You have them here. There's no reason not to have them there, and they probably start there. Since this is a dream, the soul families really are probably more there than they are here, even though they can choose to say, all right, I'll share this dream with you, and I'll have an incarnation. But in reality, the spirit is not in the body is in the spirit. Because again, all you're doing when you die is, I'm expanding my focus. I'm taking the glasses off, taking the tunnel vision away. Oh yeah, look at how much more there is. Look at how much more I am. I remember now.
Oh man, damn.
Cabbage Patch Babies and orphan trains. I've got quite a theory for you, so hear me out. Cabbage Patch Babies, that's basically, have you ever heard of a homunculus? Homunculus is like, they have figured out ways they can grow people out of the ground. It's pretty disgusting, but it's a real thing. And so they figured out how to grow people in basically in a cabbage pod. It's like the same as the pod people. And but they had to convince everybody that the world was a globe, of course. So that all ties into Tartaria. They wiped out everybody. First, they taught all the elders. They tried to get them to accept the fact that the Earth was a globe. Some did, and I think the ones who didn't were killed. And then, along with everybody in the population, and then they repopulated. There was the incubators and the infantoriums of I'm blanking out. It's the world fairs, the infantoriums of the world fairs, and they would sell these babies, live babies, and nobody knew where they came from. So like Jerry Seinfeld said his dad was one of the babies that came from the world fair incubator. But so they used these orphan trains from like 1850 to 1924 to like repopulate all of America with children. That's why you see pictures of children trying to operate these giant pieces of machinery that obviously are not built for people their size. They're built for adults at the least, if not something bigger than that. And so once they were able to wipe out everybody who still knew the truth about the shape of the earth, they could start their new education program and grow up a whole new America. And where 100% of them, when it began, agreed the earth was a ball. In every big city in America, there has been a fire that destroyed the entire city at some point in the last 150 years. Just Google it. So first, anyone who was a Tartarian, which is a blanket term, I understand, was killed, and then they tried to destroy every piece of architecture that proved what they were doing so that they could try to convince people that technology wasn't better before you came along. And then they grew a whole new society, and they fed them the lies that they wanted them to believe. We are now at the point in our civilization where technology has severely outpaced the lie. So it's very easy now to figure out that the earth is flat, but we're so locked into our programming that it's very difficult to question your reality. Once people do question the reality, consider the possibilities, then they can open their mind and start activating their consciousness. That's when you have the power to make a decision against authority if it's bad for you.
Leave that dope alone.
You haven't.
He needs to leave that dope alone.
Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
When it comes to the Book of Enoch, there are three things that I guarantee you've heard before. One, it's not canonized, so it can't be scripture. Two, it's a different Enoch. And three, it was written long after the flood. Well, I'm here to demolish all three of those. Canonization is the process by which books of the Bible were discovered as authoritative. So, is this person who they say they are, and did they hear from God? Well, we can all agree that this Enoch definitely did. I mean, he walked with God so closely that God took him. He did not even need to see death. And we all know that Enoch's genealogy. It's Adam, Seth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalala, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and then Noah, right? Now, if you're a naysayer, I know two things about you for sure. One, you've heard these misconceptions from someone else. And two, you've never read this. Because if you had read this, you would have seen an angel sent by God named Uriel to show him everything and a bunch of prophecies of what's to come, everything about the cosmos and so on and so forth. Then you would see that also Enoch passed down to his son Methuselah to hand down the generations for the whole world to see. Yes, this Methuselah. And you'll see in chapter 83 his grandfather's name, Mahalalala. Yes, this Mahalalala. All jokes aside, his genealogy, his family is mentioned all through the book. So that's how I know you heard it from someone else and you haven't read this book. Now, think of who canonized it. Now that we've obviously determined that Enoch is a verified saint, and the Book of Enoch was obviously written by this Enoch. The Catholic Church, the popes, they canonize. Yes, the Catholic Church, the popes who are at the Vatican, which pays homage to the freaking serpent, and has a telescope named Lucifer there. If you had taken the time to read this, you would understand the influence that these fallen angels have had on this world since the beginning of time, okay? And you would find that there's evil at the top of every pyramid, including the Vatican, and that's easy to see. Super easy to see, and you would find that if they are the ones that are hiding this, and they pay homage to the serpent, and they don't want you to read this, should I say more?
You're that guy, pal. Trust me. You're that guy.
Until he collapsed. NASA has got the world's largest vacuum chamber. This is the ISS training facility, they call. It is completely underwater. I'm going to ask you, why are they training here and not here? Pressure underwater is the complete opposite of the vacuum of space. Underwater, the pressure is extremely high and will compress or crush you with extreme force. And in a vacuum, pressure is extremely low and your craft will expand or explode with extreme force outward, the opposite direction of underwater. Why in the world would you train under conditions that are opposite those in which you will be working? Well, they tested this one time at the human subject. It was Jim LeBlanc. They put him into a spacesuit. You can see this here. Here's Jim LeBlanc. And they put him into the vacuum chamber and then they decreased the pressure, okay? And yeah, that was from the outside, from this little vacuum chamber. It is from the 1960s around. And yeah, they decreased the pressure until he collapsed. Yeah, but he survived. Yeah, you can see they opened the door and he survived, and the doctor came in and he was stabilized. The problem is he collapsed while it was in the range of the low vacuum. So it is 5 levels above the pressure in outer space. Okay, and that was the first and the last time they use a human being as a test subject into a vacuum chamber. Now what happens when you put water inside a vacuum chamber like this here, that's the pump, and they decrease the pressure, the water boils. So according to those points, it is impossible to put human beings as test subjects into vacuum chambers without killing them. In addition, underwater, moving around and pushing off of things will be much slower and tedious in a pool as opposed to the vacuum of space. At least if training is done in a warehouse on wires, there will be less resistance, which is at least closer to the complete lack of resistance in space. Water is the exact opposite of the vacuum. There is a great deal of resistance to movement underwater. It makes no sense to construct a full-scale model of the ISS underwater. An ISS replica could easily be constructed in a large warehouse or hangar. It would be easier to build, maintain, modify, etc. This is just silly to do underwater. The performance and integrity of a spacesuit underwater is the opposite of how it would perform and hold up in a vacuum. Training on wires at normal atmosphere would at least be closer to a vacuum than underwater. Real vacuum chamber testing would be the best, but again, training underwater makes no sense. Spacesuits, gear, tools, equipment, spare parts, and many others are all designed for use in space, in a vacuum, not underwater. Tools such as drills, wrenches, hammers, bolts, quick release parts, would all behave completely different underwater. This makes no sense to train to use these underwater. It's just for the show must go on. Have a nice day.
Boy, if you don't get
Yeshua, aka Jesus, was one of these students as well. Read the Gospel of the Holy 12. You'll find that when he disappeared from the Bible, where did he go? He went to Egypt. I've taken many people to the actual bed that he slept in, which is still there in Egypt. It's a shrine now. And he was there learning the Egyptian mysteries. And this is well known, well documented. I mean, that was an apocryphal text that was left out of the Bible. He left there and went to Tibet to learn Reiki healing and Qigong and energy healing with his hands, and came down through India, learned the mystic arts. And then the Bible picks up at the age of 32, I called my son out of Egypt. That's what the Bible says. And he ends up riding it on the back of a donkey back in Jerusalem. So that's the loop that's missing out of there, 12 to 32. That chunk is missing out in the Gospel of the Holy 12. Again, he also had the Mason knowledge. Hand-picked people would get to learn this sacred knowledge. Masons would actually encode it into structures and buildings, which is encoded all throughout the world, throughout Rome at the Vatican, all throughout Europe, all throughout areas like in Bosnia, believe it or not, where you have the Pyramid of the Sun there in the Bosnian Valley. They literally had a system in which they can identify people who they called adept initiates, people who seem to have some type of ability to perceive things at a higher level or retain knowledge at a higher level or display some type of talent, or ability. And those people were literally handpicked.
Oh my God!
If you made it this far, I appreciate you all. Subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts on today's video. I thought they were creepy. Check out another great selection on your screen. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one. Quick!